everyone, this is Gina. Today I'm going to show you how to make a really fast, really easy, really cute bracelet with the newest treasure bags. These are the seasonal tones, warm and cool, and this is what it looks like on. And right now, at the time I'm recording this, there are still just a few bags left in both colors. I think there's actually 16, the last time I looked, and it could be less, there's 16 bags left in this one and around 20 in this one. So if you really want a bag, hop on over to ggctreasures.com and see if they're still available. They are still trickling out the door. They go really fast the first couple of days, and then they just kind of trickle out, so they're still going, but there may be one left if you'd like some. So we're going to be making this bracelet. This is how cute this looks. You could put a couple dangles here. You could put a couple crystals next to the heart. You could put a couple more links of chain and put another heart to dangle, however you would like. They turn out really cute. This is what it looks like in the cool bag, and I really like the mixture of the antique silver tone with the bright silver. I wasn't sure I would like that, but I think it turned out really nice. So that is just really bright and cheery, and this one is really nice and warm and just kind of elegant. So this is what we're going to make. Let's go ahead and look and see what it takes to make this, and we will get started. Okay, for this project we are going to be making a very simple strong bracelet. So what we're going to be using are beads and components from our newest treasure bags, which is seasonal tones, cool and warm. So I will show you what you will use from each bag, so that if you only have one bag or the other, you'll be able to see what you're going to be using. So we're going to start with the hollow tube beads that we have in both bags. We're going to use 4 of them. I believe you have 10 of them in your bag, and you're going to use 4 silver tone. This is antique silver tone for the cool bag and antique bronze tone for the warm bag. You will also have 12 little heart charms in your bags. So for the cool, you will have silver and you're going to use 1. And again, for the warm, you will have antique bronze and you're going to use 1. You have these little pale beads too, so there's large hole beads with the little bail loop on it. We're going to use 1 of each of those. You have multiple, you have several of them in your bags, so you're going to use 1, silver in the cool, antique bronze in the warm. We're also going to be adding to the bag a couple of crimp tubes. So I have these little size 2 crimp tubes, and for my bronze I'm going to be using this gold color because it's the only thing I have close enough to the antique bronze. And then I'm going to be using bright silver color for my cool bag. These are Beadalon size 2 crimp tubes. From your bags, you will use 1 of the toggles, and of course you can see which goes to which, and you'll be using 1 of the toggle clasps. You'll also be using the bead caps that came in either bag. And I'm going to use some of the chain just to remove a couple links to attach my heart to my bail bead, because I don't want to search around for jump rings that will fit well, that are the right size, and so on and so forth. These are the right color and they're the right size if you just take a link off. So we'll be using just a tiny bit of the chain that came in either bag. Of course you can use jump rings too, that's fine. I'm adding to the bag some Toho 80 seed beads. For the cool bag, I'm going to be using hematite, and for the warm bag, I am going to be using black diamond, gold line black diamond. Then we're also going to be using 6 beads that came in the bags. These are the pumpkin shape electroplated faceted glass beads. You have a big long strand of them. You're going to use 6. So of course This is the warm bag, this is the cool bag. We're going to be using some bead stringing wire, and you can use whatever wire you have on hand. It should work just fine. I am going to use two separate ones. For my medium bag, I'm going to use the soft flex, that is this light gray color, and it is medium soft flex. For the antique bronze one, I'm going to be using this golden color Beadalon 49 strand. It is 0.024 inch or 0.61 millimeter. It's a little bit heavier beading wire, but you can also use the lighter, the more fine diameter beading wire. It doesn't matter. Because these beads are big, I can get away with this one, and this one's a little prettier, so I'm using it. You can use soft flex medium in your gray tone on both of them too. That's fine. I just am trying to be a little bit more consistent with the coloring, but you can use whatever you have on hand. Don't let the colors limit you. It will look fine. So that's what we're going to be using. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so I am going to put together the bronze colored one, and you can follow along with the silver one, of course. They're the exact same components, just a different color. We're going to start with 10 inches of your beading wire. Now, if you have a much bigger wrist, then this is going to end up to be about around 7.5 inches in length. If you have a bigger wrist than that, then you might want to cut a little bit more. I'm starting with 10 inches for a medium-sized bracelet. I am going to grab one of my size 2 crimp tubes, and I'm going to drop it on to my beading wire, and then I'm going to pick up my toggle, and I'm going to put the wire through the loop, pull some through, and then just push push the end of the wire through my crimp tube and slide it down a little ways, and then I'm going to pull the long wire gently and make a loop. So I'm just going to keep pulling it. That way I don't lose a lot of my length. I have just a short length on this side to hold on to, and then I pull it down until I have the size loop that I want around my toggle clasp here. So you want a big enough loop to where it's going to move nicely, but not huge, and not so tight that it's not going to move at all. Then once you have this through, you're going to grab your crimping tool and just imagine where the wires are lying next to each other. Imagine putting the little pokey on the divot closest to the handle of your tool, right in between those two wires, and then squeeze. What that does is it separates the two sides of the wire, and it encases them separately in little tubes. That's the first half of your crimp. The second half, you will go into the first divot on your plier or your crimping tool, and you will place those little tubes touching the sides of the crimping tool. So you're putting it in basically sideways, and you're going to squeeze again. This draws those two tubes together and gives you a nice tight crimp. Once you've done that, then you can grab some flush cutters, and this is crimped tightly, so I can cut this very close to the crimp tube and still be safe here. I'm first going to pick up one of my 8/0 seed beads, and this one I'm using the Gold Line Black Diamond, and I'm going to drop it down. Then I'm going to pick up 2 bead caps. Now, to get a tiny bit of length, you can do this all the way around, but I just did this on the very end. I just doubled my bead caps because I think it makes kind of a cool look for the very end. So I'm just putting 2 of them on like this. And then I'm going to pick up one of my crystals, drop it on, and then I'm going to pick up another bead cap. Then I'm going to pick up 10 8/0 seed beads onto my wire. There's 5. We'll pick up 5 more. and drop it down. Then I'm going to pick up one of my big tube beads and I'm going to drop it right over those beads I just put on. Now, if you want more of a sliding effect, this is I wanted to make kind of a sliding effect, but I found out if I put more beads and made it slide more, my bracelet was too big. So you can add a couple more beads, rearrange it so that it slides more if you want, but I think this gives it enough movement here. Not totally the effect I wanted, but it works out fine. Then after I've dropped the bead on the 10 beads underneath, I'm going to pick up a bead cap. And that bead cap is different than the rest. That's weird. Let me get another one. Okay. And then I am going to put on another crystal. And then another bead cap the other direction. And this is the effect I have, just like this. And I'm going to repeat that. So we're going to pick up 10 more of our seed beads. There's 5. There's 5 more. And then I'm going to drop another tube down. Then I'm going to pick up a bead cap and a crystal and a bead cap. Then I'm going to pick up one Toho seed bead. Then I'm going to drop on this little guy, so your little bail bead. And we're just going to put him on, drop him down. And of course, if you don't have the treasure bag, you can find similar beads and do this just fine too. It doesn't have to look the same, but it gives you a technique to work with. Then we're going to pick up another 8/0 seed bead on the other side of the bail bead, and then we're going to repeat how we did before. So we are going to first pick up a bead cap, a crystal, and a bead cap. Then you will pick up your 10 8/0 seed beads, drop the bead down on top of it, and repeat. So you're going to go exactly backwards from this point forward, exactly the same. So you're just going to mirror it. So go ahead and finish this side exactly how we did this side with the beads, and we'll be back to put the clasping on. Okay, so as you can see, I have finished the other side of my bracelet exactly the same as I did this side, and I've ended with 2 of my bead caps, an 8/0 seed bead, and then I put on my crimp tube. Now I'm going to grab the end, and I think actually to make this even thinner, I think instead of just putting 1 of my 8/0 seed beads, I'm going to put 2 just to narrow this down a little bit more for the use of the toggle. And then I'm going to put on my crimp tube, and then I'm going to grab my clasp, go through the loop, and then bring my beading wire around, and I'm going to go into the crimp tube and into the 2 8/0s. I'm trying to go all the way down and into these 2 of my bead caps. I might even just go right under into this bead and end it right underneath. See if I can go into that bead. Yes, I can. So I've gone through my crimp tube. I've gone through the 2 8/0s, the bead caps, and the bead here. I'm going to hold on to my clasp and pull this all together as much as I can. Then I'm going to hold on to this bead, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to push the whole works down from the bead cap or from the crimp tube, so I can get it all very tight together. And I'm going to hold on to the 2 8/0 seed beads, and I'm just going to pull this all as tight as I can, not worrying about leaving any length here for the loop. Right now I just want this very tight so that I can draw my entire bracelet together, just like that. Then I'm going to take my flush cutters and I'm going to cut this right underneath that bead. Then I'm going to push down the crimp tube just enough to give myself a nice loop to move around. I'm going to kind of compare it to the other side, make sure I have about the same size loop, and then I'm going to, what that does is that will draw any of the excess beading wire that was sticking out underneath your bead. It will draw it up into the bead, give you a loop up here, and keep everything contained so you can now crimp. So I'm going to imagine where the center is, where those two pieces of wire are lying next to each other. Put that in the second divot of my crimping tool and squeeze. And now you can see I have encased both of those wires separately because they were lying parallel to each other. And then I turn the bead side or the crimp tube sideways and squeeze again. Now be careful not to squeeze your 8/0 seed beads. There we go. Now I have a proper crimp and I have a bracelet. What I need to do now is attach. I'm going to make sure that this works well. And it does. It slides through there nicely. So now I am going to put on my little dangle. So I've got my heart here. Let me actually get in camera. That would probably be a really good thing to get in camera. So let's move all this down here. Oh, goodness sakes. There we go. And I'm going to grab my chain and a couple pairs of pliers. I'm going to find where the chain opens. Place a plier on either side of the opening. And I'm just going to open a link here. Take this link off. I'm going to open this pretty wide. So you can see I have opened my little link. And now I'm going to put the heart on and then put the bail bead through the loop of the bail bead, which can be kind of tricky. So let me do that again. I'm using flat nose. I should probably use a chain nose. That would probably help a little bit more. So I've got this. And these links are pretty strong, so they're kind of hard to crank. So if I slip off, you know why. Now I'm just going to close it. And squeeze it so that they're nice and next to each other, like this. And in just a couple of minutes, I've made a really cute bracelet that would make a great Christmas present. Now, you can always go in and put some crimp tube covers over your crimp tubes if you want, but I don't think it looks too bad, so I'm not too worried about that. Let me show you what the silver one looks like, because it's just as pretty. And the antique silver and bright silver together looks really nice. So there you go, a really easy, really fast project. Let me get you in closer and rearrange so you can see what they look like. Oh, the camera is just not cooperating. There we go. And that, my friends, is a cute bracelet.